Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with yet another video where we're repairing this Williams 1962 World Series pitch and bat pinball-ish machine, arcade machine. If you didn't see our other videos, we've been working through this thing. This is one of the machines that was actually installed at Surfside Beach down at Myrtle Beach and was operated for many, many years. Garden City Pavilion. Look at that. Is it called Surfside Beach? Did I get that wrong? Myrtle Beach, basically. And we've been working through it. We've done several videos here. This thing has been heavily modified to work at the beach the way they wanted it to work. So it's not quite like your normal pitch and bat. They've crippled it in some ways. So we've been going through fixing it up. And another thing to think about is if it was at the beach, it got a lot of play. They had a lot of people down there playing these things. And it's 60 years old. So heavy, heavy, heavy play on this thing. So we're working through it, and on the previous video, we got the little running man unit to work in the back where the little guy pops up. Okay, so we're going to keep going through it and fixing it here and show you how it's designed and what the issues are and see what we can do to get it working. We're fixing this for a gentleman who bought it. Basically, we're trying to get the thing running well for him. He's going to put it in his home collection. He remembers playing it back in the day. It has an interesting paint job on it where they repainted the front. The reason for that is because at the beach they had several of these lined up, and this was one of the ones in the middle. So you couldn't actually see the side art. So they never repainted the original side art. They just left it all weathered and all of that. But the front they repainted, and then they had another one right beside it that looked exactly the same. And from the front, they look brand new, right? But we're going to do a video later where we touch up the paint on this thing. We'll get it looking better, so don't worry about that. But we need to get the thing working first. Now, when you first turn it on, it comes up tilted. It's supposed to do that. That's kind of how they're designed. So we'll drop a quarter in it, or I'll hit the switch as if we dropped a quarter in it, and show you what happens. It resets the runs. The little running man unit was working in there. And at the end of the previous video, we got it to where it will actually score. Look at that, the little guy pops up and runs, and then if you hit another double, he runs home. And we got a one run, and the guy's on second base. This is so cool. Wow, this thing is cool. So the singles work and all of that, right? Well, the way it's designed, you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens if you miss the ball, but we'll see that here in a little bit. The way it's designed, you get 3 outs. Now, usually you get a whole bunch of innings, but at the pavilion, they had crippled this thing to where you don't. You get 3 outs, and that's it, okay? So the goal of the game at the beach was to win 22 runs. If you got 22 runs, you won one of your choice of the little teddy bear hanging up on the wall. And we showed that picture in an earlier video. So they've removed the unit that does the innings. So it's just basically one inning. You get 3 outs. Deal with it, folks. They also made it a little easier though because they took out the curveball stuff. There's a magnet under the playfield to make it a curveball, and I believe they took out either the fastball or the slow ball. So basically, it throws the same pitch every time, which actually makes it easier because you can predict what it's going to do. Okay, but here's one of the problems that we're having. So this is the next thing that we're going to fix. When you get your 3 outs, the game doesn't end. It gets in this weird loop. So if I hit out, so I got an out. Okay, if I do it again, I got 2 outs. Now when I get 3 outs, the game should be over. The guy ran home, and it gets into this weird loop. And you see the guy is popping up over and over again. What in the world? And then it stops sometimes. You hear some buzzing. What in the world? It shouldn't be like this. So we got to figure that out next. So that if we figure that out, basically the thing will be ready to play. And I think it stays like that. Yeah, so every time I turn it on now, it's going to do this. Okay. So we need to figure out why it's doing that. So we're going to break out the schematics and see what is supposed to happen at the end of a game, because that's obviously our problem. So here are the schematics. How in the world are you ever supposed to figure out where to look on the schematics to figure out like this particular problem? Well, let me show you a little trick how to track it down. What happens when the game is over? The game over light comes on, right? So that's a good place to start. If you don't know anything, you know that the game over light is supposed to come on. Okay? So if you look on the schematics and you find the game over light, what makes the game over light come on? It looks like the game over relay makes the game over light come on. So the game over relay has to be closed. The reset hold relay has to be closed. And then the tilt relay has to be open. The tilt light is on, but we don't want that on, right? We want the game to just be over. So the tilt relay should go this way, the reset relay should be this way, and the game over relay should allow the game over light to come on. Okay? So let's look at it again and see if that's happening. So remember, if I turn it on, it's going to do it. So the tilt light is still on. I don't even know where the game over light is. I guess it's right here. So it's never coming on, okay? And then so the tilt light is on. The game over light never comes on. And then another clue is that the running man unit is just running constantly, okay? So if we look for our clues and think about it, we ought to be able to figure it out. So the tilt light is still on, which means that the tilt relay is still connected. Now, it says down here, normally closed switch, open when the relay is energized. So the tilt relay should actually be energized to turn off that light. And then it would send power down the other way and turn on the game over light. That's the only way it's going to get power. Okay, that's just how the circuit's designed. So the tilt relay is not pulling in. So what pulls in the tilt relay? It holds itself on See, it has a normally open switch on it. Normally open, closed when the relay is energized. That's interesting. How do they do that? We need to figure out how this is drawn, like what position this is drawn at. It says, latch relays are drawn in tripped position, that is, unlatched. So it looks like the tilt relay holds itself on through a switch until the plumb bob I'm looking at other things here. We're just going to have to go in and look at it. So the lock relay is normally closed, but the tilt relay is normally open. Well, how in the world would it ever get power? That's very strange. All right, so let's look up here. The AC section. No, that has not. I mean the primary side of the transformer. That has nothing to do with it. Okay, so let's find the tilt relay and figure out what in the world. We ought to be able to tell how it's supposed to work by looking at it. Wait a minute. I missed the latch part. It's a latching relay, so it holds in whatever position it goes. So that explains it. Okay, so let's find this. Let's find this this in the machine. So there's a tilt relay, and then there should be a. Oh, you know what? This is confusing too. That's not tilt relay. That's tilt reset. Right? Like the No, it is tilt relay. Okay, so I think I figured it out. So if you look, it says tilt relay 1730 1500. And then it says tilt relay latch. And there's several of them like that on there. There's 4 or 5. So if you look and you go by the wire colors, that is the tilt relay. So what it's saying is, once this pulls in, it connects that switch together. That switch is hardwired with a jumper to this trip, or they call this the latch actually, the latch coil of the relay. Okay, and then there are, since that's connected, the wires go off to other things. So if something happens on the other side and connects power to that, it sends power through that switch and trips that or latches that so that this comes back. So the thing is, on these schematics, they don't show how the tilt relay, the game over relay, or the high score reset relay, how those three get tripped. There is a wire here that comes to it, and then it daisy chains to all three. So all three of these get tripped at the same time. So it must have something to do with the startup sequence. So I started following the wire back. This is it here, and it just goes along. And it took me forever, and I went through, and it goes around through here, and I'm over to here, and I'm pulling on it, and it seems like it goes over here to the score motor. Well, it was then that I noticed that these 3 switches here were just smashed together. So all 3 of these were connected. So I think that was probably our problem. So I'm going to look up in the schematics and see if we can figure out what that is. So it's on the top cam. And there's a drawing of the cam on the schematics. Let's see if we can figure out what those 3 switches did and why it would cause us a bunch of trouble. Okay, so they draw the cams, and it was the top one, which is cam C. And it was the one with all of the switches that's right on the little divot in the cam. And it was the outside. These 3 were jammed together. So the motor run switch and the index start switch. So if all of those are jammed together, I mean, the motor will just keep running and running and running. So that makes sense. So motor run and index start switch. So it was this switch here. All these were jammed together. And so power was coming over to the relay motor the whole time. I don't know why it was stopping after we started playing it, though. That's kind of weird. I don't know, but that's what was going on. So let's turn it on and see if it starts a game, and then see if we can get 3 outs and it ends a game. We'll turn it on. It sounds better. So it's not doing its crazy thing. Let's start a game. Okay, we've started a game. The tilt light is not on. Out number 1. Out number 2. Out number 3. Game over. Okay, so I think it's just because we had some wires smashed together. Was it like that in an earlier video? On the earlier video, I already worked on that thing. You'd think I would have noticed all the wires smashed together, but whatever. Okay, so it seems like it's right. So you may have noticed that this thing plays and scores independently of the pitcher or the batter actually even working. We haven't even done that yet. So it's up and running, and the bat and the pitching part is completely has nothing to do with the scoring or the game actually running. So we're actually playing a game without any of that doing a thing. Okay. So I think we need to get some of the lights working, and then we're going to start working on this playfield so that we can at least see if the bat will work or the pitching unit will work. So I think I'll slide that back glass out if I can figure out how to do it. And then we'll replace some of the light bulbs in that so we can get it looking a little better. It's been a long time coming. Well, it took me to video 5 to figure out that you can just take the whole top thing out. So whenever we were working on it from back here before, you just take a couple screws loose and the whole thing comes out. So that's how you get to the light bulbs. I don't like that quite as well because you can't power it up. I guess I could set it on a box behind it or something. But I like being able to see that the light bulbs are on, you know, so I do it with the power on usually. But that's all right. So I'm going to swap the bulbs, and yeah, I may be able to set it up in there sideways, actually. I'll see what I can do. But yeah, looks pretty cool. So let me start swapping some bulbs, and we'll see what we end up with. Okay, so yeah, it'll fit in there sideways. You don't even have to unplug it. You can just kind of take it loose and pull it back a little bit and turn it sideways. So, I replaced all the bulbs. They had a whole bunch of blinkers in here. I like the blinkers, but if you put a blinker in like every bulb, it kind of gets away from the whole idea of the blinker. It should just draw attention to the machine. If there's 30 lights blinking on and off, it makes the scene dark where you can't see it, and then this part lights up and now this part's dark and you can't ever see the whole thing. So it's better if you put enough of them in there that it illuminates it, and then you put a couple that blink to draw attention to it. Now this particular one doesn't have any identified as blinkers. Sometimes they'll have like it'll be cut with kind of hollowed out, and you can tell that the globe is supposed to go in there, which is the blinkers. But this doesn't have any that tell you one way or the other, but I put a couple in. Okay, and all of our World Series lights work except for the last one. So I don't know what's up with that. So we'll mess with that a little bit. We got to get all of them working. If you didn't see the previous videos, there was a feature in this game where after you played each game, it lit up a letter in the phrase World Series, and then once you lit all of them up, you won a free game. But this one, they didn't want that to work at the beach, so they took all that stuff out. So it won't do that. But they basically didn't want you winning free games or making it confusing. You get 22 runs, you win a stuffed animal. You don't win free games. You don't try to get, you know, the high score. You get 22 runs, you win a free stuffed animal. You don't have to worry about if you get a curveball or a fastball or a normal ball. You get 22 runs, you win a stuffed animal. There's a sign over the side over there. This is the highest score that's ever been scored on the machine. That's irrelevant. You get 22 runs, you win a free stuffed animal. So that was their thinking. Right. But we got to get that light to light up so that it'll look better having everything displayed. So I'm going to slide this back in, and we'll see what we can do about that. So here is the little disc that is on the name unit. Okay. So one of the things one of the problems that we have is they didn't make manuals, apparently, for these baseball games. They just made schematics for them. So, like, for instance, earlier whenever I was saying I could see where it latches, but I can't see where it trips, they don't show it. It's not written in the schematics. And usually you have a manual and it shows all of the parts, like this kind of stuff, and kind of describes how they work, okay? But we're flying blind here. So we're going to work on this a little bit. So see how that sticks? It shouldn't do that. It's got a spring on it. It should pop back up and not stick. Now what happens is it doesn't need to pop that far back in because you're not that far off of the board. Usually the board is maybe that far off. Okay. But if it sticks like this, it might stick just a little bit too far in where it doesn't touch the board. So the way you can remedy that is you can put just a little bit, I said a little bit, just a little bit of oil on it. Just a tad bit. Don't overdo it because the problem you'll run into is if you put too much oil, it'll drip out the bottom and get all over your traces and could short stuff together and everything else. So I put just a little teeny bit of oil on these. Now one of them, again, we can't tell how it's supposed to be, right, originally. We're just kind of trying to guess. So, you know, this turns around, click, 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 and these touch different contacts as they go. Well, you can see that all of these ones around the outside are connected to the middle. This is usually connected to ground in the machine. right? Or it might be the one side of the transformer or something. So basically, as this turns, these little snowshoes touch different rivets and presumably turn on more letters, okay? Now here in the middle there are two. I have no clue what they're for, but they're connected together with a trace on the board, right? So it could be that they have two, you know, a rivet here and a rivet here, and as it goes around, whenever it gets there, you just shorted those two together because this is shorted together. All right, now look on this side. See those two holes? So they have the ability to put these two right there, but they didn't. So why are they not there? It's because they never were there, that's why. You can just tell, there was never, those were never mounted there. So I'm being Captain Obvious, obviously. But why am I doing that? It's because, what the hell is this? So now you have a problem. Did that originally have one of these snowshoes in it? I would say yes, because if it didn't, they would have just left it like that. So if that's there, it probably originally was set up like the other ones. And that's probably why that one light doesn't light up. So we need that little piece. So the only way they're held in is they're kind of bent at the top. But the truth is, they will pop right out. But if they're on the game and they're pushed in a little bit, they won't really come out. They can't. Like, what are they going to do, you know? So, if only there was a way to get another one. That's why you keep parts around. This is why people end up on hoarders. So I think we're good. So I'm going to swap it back in the machine, and let's see if that gets all of our lights working. Very cool. I left the ones that say innings to play, even though the inning thing isn't in here. They had taken all the ones out of that. This one says Grand Slam. We may get that one to work. Basically, that piece of plastic back there is covering up the Grand Slam shaft. That would be pretty easy to put back in, though, I think. So we'll talk to the customer about that. Basically, we're fixing it just how they had it at the beach. So that wasn't at the beach, but some of it we can start putting back in. All of those are working good. And then you can see on the art, don't you think it looks a little better? So we got one there kind of where he was hitting the ball, bam. And we got one there where the mask is flying off. You just want a little bit of something twinkling, make you notice it. You could put blinkers in all of those too. That would probably look all right. That's a common thing. They kind of put blinkers behind the name of the game. But just getting them all back on looks pretty good. We still got to figure out what we're going to do about the high score thing. We might just put another dummy reel in there or something, or we might just cover that up. But they had it covered up at the beach. I didn't have to clear the back of the back glass because somebody had already done it with, it looked like a paintbrush and like real thick lacquer or something. But I was able to clean the windows in front of the score reels pretty good. So I think that looks a lot better just doing that. What do you think? Look what I pulled out. So this is the belly bar. On the really old games, they called those belly bars. The lockdown bar. Now originally, button to press to pitch. And then on this side, there would have been a bat that you move. And you move the bat, and it actually makes the bat swing. But at the beach, they removed all that. So they just put micro switches in it. You can see where there used to be a leaf switch. The switch stack was there. It was removed. And then on this side you can see a couple screws because there was a bat mechanism that kind of hung in there. And that's been removed. So it's one of those things, where are you going to get it, you know? If it was my machine, I might go through the trouble and find it all. But the same old story. We're kind of just putting it back how they had it at the beach. So we need to see if the pitching unit works or if the bat unit works. So I'll plug this in. There's just a little blade. I don't remember if we even tried this on the first video or whatever. There's a little blade here to plug it up. And I'll put up the playfield. There's no balls in it. I'll put up the playfield so we can see what's going on underneath it whenever you hit those buttons. Okay, so I plugged it in. I don't really think either one of them is going to work, the pitching or the batting, but we'll see. Okay, we got our game started. So this is the pitch motor. Now it says down there on a little tag, bad pitch motor. But on a previous video, I hit a relay or something and it started moving. So there ain't a bad pitch motor. Maybe they already swapped it at some point. So I'm going to just hit the pitch button. Looked to me like that thing pitched. Okay. Well, it's really pitching now. Okay, so it's pitching over and over again. It shouldn't do that, but let's see if the bat button does anything. It's trying to, but it's seized up or something. Yeah, it's stuck. It didn't like something. Maybe it's waiting on a out or something. No. Well, the pitching relay must be stuck on or something. Let's see. So there's the bat relay. It's stuck down. Okay, let's turn it off before we burn something up. Okay. So it's kind of limping along. So let's lay the playfield up and let's see if we can figure out why the pitching relay is just staying on, the pitching motor is just staying on over and over again. Okay, so I removed the motor. It just has a yoke here that fits on that. Now this thing's filthy, so that fits on those two standoffs there and turns that wheel, right? So I removed the motor and I turned it around and put it back on the playfield so that we can watch it, what it does, okay? So when you hit the button, the pitch button, it's going to pull in this pitch relay. See how the sparks and stuff? But it is moving the motor. Okay. So what that does is when you pull that in, it starts the motor. The motor starts turning this. Well, when it turns this, it's going to take these switches off of this cam. So if you look, there's a stack of switches there. So as soon as this starts turning, so we hit our button and the motor is turning, right? And so now it's turned over to about there. Well, what it's done is it's connected those bottom two switches together, which is now running the motor. Okay? The relay is turned off. Okay? So that is off. But the motor is still running. So why does our motor keep running? It's because the way it's supposed to work is when this gets, and you know, it just pitches the ball. And whenever it gets to right here, the switch opens again. But what's going on is it's all so dirty and misadjusted and everything that it's arcing and allowing the, as it bounces, as it goes into that hole, it's just enough to keep the motor running to far enough that it goes past it and connects the switch again. So it's doing that over and over and over again. So basically, we need to clean this up, and I need to adjust those switches there so that they don't do that. The other switches on it do some other things, but we'll look at that here in a minute. Notice we have some wires cut here. That's because, like I was saying, they removed there's a solenoid over here that pulls in that makes it throw the ball fast or throw the ball slow, changes it up. And they've removed all of that. The magnet mounted here and connected here to make the curve ball work. So it literally would throw the ball, and as it went over the playfield, before it got to the bat, the magnet would go bzzz, and it would move the ball. Very cool. But we can't make it do that anymore because they removed one of the stepper units that made it do that. The mix unit, they call it. So all of that is long gone. So it's going to be the beach version, which is just the same ball over and over again. So let me see if I can clean this up a little bit and adjust the switches and see if I can get it to run and stop. Okay, so there is a little clutch kind of thing. I don't know what it's called, but this little insert here, when the motor turns, that goes inside. That's basically kind of how the motor works. And that wasn't releasing very easily. So that was allowing the motor to keep running. I oiled it up, so all of that is moving freely. Now it doesn't do it. That very well could explain what they meant by pitch motor bad. Pitch motor wasn't bad. Electric motors don't go bad too much. Pitch motor needed oil. Okay, so watch that little thing. You'll see what I'm talking about. Fit in and out. So when it was turning and that was dropping open, didn't matter because that was still in, so it was still creating juice, right? Just enough for it to keep turning it and closing the switch again, giving it more power. You got to look for the little stuff, people. I wonder if it'll work a second time. Why, yes, it did work a second. Maybe I should push my luck and try a 3. 4 times, shall we? Perhaps on a 5th try it will mess up. It's like clockwork, people. It's like clockwork. It's smooth as butter. Okay, so it kind of should be pitching now. So I don't know. I need to go find some balls to test it with. Let me go find the balls. Okay, folks, so this is the other side of the pitching unit where the balls go. Filthy. Look at this. So this should be very clean, or it's not going to spin very fast. So if you want to throw those fastballs, you got to get that all the way it's supposed to be. I don't know if that's a missing screw or kind of looks like it. I don't know if that's threaded or not. Yeah, so I'm going to disassemble this a little bit more, clean all of this up, and then hopefully get it nice and oiled where it'll move just blazing fast. Basically, this bar is what hits the ball. As it spins around. And it pushes up the flap on the playfield and kicks the ball out of it. So the motor turns and turns and turns, and it gets to a certain spot where it releases this little lever. And when it does, it lets the tension off the spring. Whap! Very cool. Okay, yeah, so I got to clean it up. Okay, here's a picture of it in the parts manual. This is the front with the switches that we were messing with. And there is the motor that we took off that bolts on. All of this seems right. Okay, and then this side is the dirty part that we're messing with now. And then this is the plate that we took off. This stuff on the back of it is what's missing. So that's what they call the fast solenoid. So I believe the way it works, I'm not positive because I don't have the pieces. I believe the way it works is this little bar sticks down through a hole in the side and actually rubs up against the side of that disc. I think. It's what it looks like if you look through the hole. And basically puts some friction on it to make it move slower. But if the fastball solenoid pulls in, it lifts that out of the way, allowing this to just freewheel whenever it releases. So I think that's how it works. So we got to try to figure it out. But let's put it back in the machine and see if it will finally pitch. Wouldn't that be a great moment if it would finally pitch? All right, here we go. Let's try it. Still needs some light bulb work, but the back glass looks a lot better, doesn't it? Looking good. So the playfield's completely dead. Originally, there were 2 light bulbs that shined through here, but at the beach, they blocked it off with wood. I have no clue why. We still haven't messed with the bat. We got some lights on. We haven't done the light bulbs or anything, and of course I have to put in the new ramps and all that stuff. Okay, so if I hit pitch, let's see if it will pitch. Ha! Boy, it pitched, but it was pretty slow, wasn't it? It's working! Wham! Knocked it out of the park. Let's see if we can catch it. You know, it doesn't have any kind of time thing to tell how long it's taking you. And we knock it through, and it goes up the ramp. I wonder if I can just throw it up the ramp. Let's see if we can just throw it up the ramp. You know there's no way this is going to work. Nope, we got to single though. And so that noise you're hearing, there's ramps underneath the playfield, and it's rolling back and landing back in the pitching unit. Little left of home play. That was, you know, it was still over home, but, you know, come on now. It's almost a ball. He's consistently snug. I'm just saying. There's a little more in there where it's supposed to be. And notice you don't get strikes either. That one was right down the middle. The ball lands in a little thing here and just rolls down. So basically they don't penalize you if you don't actually hit the ball. So, pretty cool. All right, well, I don't know that that's fast enough, though. That doesn't seem like how the fastball is supposed to be. So maybe I'm misunderstanding what that fast solenoid does. We'll have to figure that out. You got to get it. It's got to be a little better than that. Maybe that, maybe we didn't get the spring clean enough. Or maybe the spring's messed up. Or maybe it needs to be wound extra or something. But it seems like it's not, you know, it's just doing this when it should be going wham! So maybe there's some way to wind that spring one more revolution and get it faster. I'll see if I can figure that out. But we'll do that in another video because we have to work on the bat and we still have to do cosmetics. We still have to paint the signs. But we're slowly getting there and we're learning how the thing works as we go along. Isn't that pretty cool? So I hope you enjoyed it so far. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. We appreciate that. We appreciate everybody that's been checking out our new parts page on our website at lionsarcade.com, where we sell all of these arcade games, pinball machines, and jukeboxes. And by the way, folks, we're always working on stuff. So we fixed this Commando while the video was going on. We've about got the Galaxian fixed, but not quite yet. So we've been working through this thing. And on lionsarcade.com, we have prices, pictures, and descriptions of all of the games that we have available for sale right now. And we also have a parts page on there with a bunch of links to things that we use whenever we do our repairs. A lot of those are on Amazon. If you follow the link to Amazon and click it, if you buy anything else on Amazon, not just what we sent you there for, it gives us a percentage of your purchase. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. And finally, last but not least, don't forget to check out my brother Donnie. My brother has his own channel here on YouTube. Joey and I work on arcade games, pinball machines, jukeboxes, stuff like that. Williams pitch and bat machines. But my brother Donnie works on old buildings, vehicles, things like that. So go check that out. I'm over there with him having a good time. A fun time is had by all. We will see you on the next video. Hope you enjoyed it so far.